sales rep, one of the things you want to do is to ensure that you meet with your prospects. I mean, actually meet with people. You take the time to connect with them. You take the time to help them to see the value in what you have to say. What if you got the appointment and people don't show up? You ain't gonna make money. In this episode, we're gonna talk about how you can make sure that more people show up to your discovery and actually are qualified. You're gonna love this one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about this idea of, yes, you guessed it, the discovery meeting, and more so not just like the discovery meeting. We're going to talk specifically of how we can make sure you have more people show up to your discovery appointments. I mean, the last thing you want to do is go through all that work to get somebody to actually have interest, but they don't show up. In today's episode, we're going to break that down for you. I have Chris Brisson. He is the CEO of a company called Salesmsg, and they have an awesome platform that you can take advantage of when it comes towards texting. I mean, we feel like right now you've got to use texting in some way in your organization. Chris is going to break that down, and y'all know I'm passionate about texting. But Chris is going to break down how he's using it and how other sales reps can take advantage of a tool like Salesmsg. If this is your first time watching one of our videos or listening to our podcast, please go ahead and subscribe and leave us a rating and review. It would be greatly appreciated. Now, as we dive in, Chris is going to give you like the overview, and then we're going to go straight into the conversation about how you can start using texting to help you when it comes towards your discovery appointments. Let's do it. What are some ways that I can utilize texting to help increase my show rate?
Yeah, if you look at the customer life cycle, right? So you have everything from lead generation to engagement to conversion to getting referrals, getting reviews. And so, SMS can play a part in all of that, right? You can use it to generate leads. If you're doing any sort of meetings, like what we're talking about with demos, the big part of that is how do you get people to show up? And so there was a training I did a couple of years ago. It was around really the webinar side of things. So you have three stages. You've got the sign up, you've got the show up, and then you got the pay up, right? And so you can look at that as a system. And so it's one thing to get, somebody registered for a demo or registered for a webinar, but then it's another thing to actually get people to show up. And so, there's the heavy push like on the email side of it, and that's all great, right? You really want to use that, but you really want to create sort of a multi-channel approach. Now, we already know text messaging works, and so, if you don't want to reinvent the wheel, I would just encourage you to send them a text message an hour before. Use your own phone, see that response that's going to come back. However, if you really want to scale it out through an organization, everything's a system, right? Everything's a process. And so, in fact, for your listeners, I have a PDF that breaks down. I call it the ultimate demo process, and everything is a process, right? So you've got, again, somebody registers for that. And so the goal of that next campaign is to get them to attend. So you have like drive to, I call them, different sequences. So I call it, drive to a book, right? Or drive to book a meeting. And then once they book that meeting, well, then the campaign is drive to attend. So that's going to be with email. It's going to be with SMS. Maybe if you want to do phone call, sure, you can implement that. And then after that demo is over, there's an outcome. They showed up, they didn't show up. So like, what's the phase you're going to put in when they don't show up? Well, there's a campaign for that. If they do show up, well, then there's a whole process for basically taking them to that next stage, which is to get into a trial or to further that conversation. There's a really cool case study. One of our customers, he was selling, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 high ticket product, and he was basically booking his calendar full. The problem was he was booking his calendar full with unqualified leads. And so he was spending a ton of his time, hosting these calls, doing these demos, come to find out there's no urgency and they have no money. And so he's like, man, I got to eliminate this. And so as leads sort of came in, he used SMS as a way to qualify over SMS. And in this report, I'll give you, Donald, it shows this template. And it's just a qualifier over SMS. You can think of like a little bot to qualify. And through that qualification, once they sort of have qualified, then he pushes them through to a Calendly event, which then they can book and actually have that call. And so rather than getting to a Calendly or to a meeting with an unqualified person, he just used SMS in the front end to qualify, and then use that same phone number, if you will, to drive them to attend the event. And what's the best way to create a conversation? It's to ask a question. And so if you're leaning into text messaging of just sort of making a statement, well, then it implies that there is no response needed. And so if you really want to create a conversation, start by asking a first question. I always like to say is, that first question could be a binary question, right? If you're qualifying a lead, like in real estate, for example, is maybe it's, hey, Chris, saw you filled out the form. Are you interested in commercial real estate or residential real estate, right? Like, how do you grease the chute to start that conversation easy for them, just to make a binary decision? They're like, oh, no, I'm not interested in that. I'm actually interested in that. Oh, okay, great, versus just like, hey, I'll get in touch with you soon, or just don't create a conversation just by making a statement. Like, just ask a question,
Questions lead to more meaningful discussions. Way more so than, because I think you put the work on a buyer when you're sending them a statement, because then
Right.
I'm like, what do I say? And I'm not sure if you're familiar with Donald Miller, but if you confuse, you lose. So now if you're confusing me, I'm like, bro, I'm not going to respond to this people. They're trying to sell me something. Let me get out of here.
That's right.
I just wanted a PDF.
That's true.
No, it's good. But a couple other things that I want to get to as we come towards the last 5 minutes here of the conversation. I'm really intrigued by the notion of again of text and how we could use that. But let's say early in a process, what are some ways, like, let's back up, because I think you can demystify some things for us. I feel that some sellers are out there, and I have gotten this, like, well, I can't send them a text message because I don't have their number. I'm not going to have their cell phone. Nobody wanted to give me their cell phone number because of blah, 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 blah reason.
Yeah, everyone always asks me, or they come to us like, oh, I've been in business for 10 years and I've got all these phone numbers and like, I can't wait to use text messaging. I'm like, great, because you can't, And so the idea with that is like, when was the best time to plant a tree? It was like 20 years ago, but the best time is right now. And so I just encourage everybody, like, start today. I had an agency and they're like, oh, again, I got a customer. They've been in business for 20 years. We have all these phone numbers. I want to start texting. I'm like, what you need to do right now is end this call and add on your web form or whatever your mechanism is a mobile form and in this language. And start now, because if you sort of get those numbers and you start texting people, and you never know the world of stuff you can get into. And not to say that it's litigious and people are getting sued, but it happens. The reality is a lawyer is only going to go after a company that has money. And so, by making these mistakes, you don't want to make them. And so just all you got to do is just, on your web form, put in this language. You can have people text you. So like, hey, here's my number, text me, and you can start that conversation. That's a form of an opt-in. And so this whole overlying thing comes into consent. And so if your idea of using text messaging is importing a list and sending mass text messages, I vote not to do that, right? Why? Because it's not legal. And so, you want to do it the right way. So if you're generating those leads, whether it's Facebook lead ads or web form or keyword or having people text your phone number, just include the language and start that conversation.
Yeah. Again, I mean, there's three different channels: email, calling, and SMS. And so if you're not using SMS, and these other channels are dying, like, you need to start now. So that's my message to everybody here.
That was Chris Brisson, and I highly recommend you go ahead and connect with him. You can find out more information about Chris and Salesmsg in our show notes. Also, if you haven't done so already, check out our sponsors, because they're also giving you amazing advice and tips and tools that you can take advantage of to help you to perform at your next level. I want you to thrive. I want you to find more of your ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. I want you to close more deals. And one thing that I want you to take advantage of is my book. Yes, shameless plug. You can check out Sell It Like a Mango. It's my new book and my only like sales book. Actually, we have a sales textbook, but physical book. You can check this out. I want to give a big shout out to my publisher, Sound Wisdom, and you can check it out. You can find a pre-order right now on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and search for Sell It Like a Mango. New seller's guide to closing more deals, and you're gonna love the ideas here. Listen, I always want you to thrive and to succeed in your role. I want you to find more of those ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you're reaching out to them. As I mentioned earlier, I want you to close more deals, but most importantly, I want you to go out, raise your level of thinking, and do big things.